Good morning, and welcome to the Mental Breakdown Morning Show. I'm Dr. Bernie Wilkinson.
I'm Dr. Richard Marshall.
Happy Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, yeah.
Tuesday.
October 4th. Oh, man. So we are officially 4 days into the new month, and it just seems like it's just flying. It's just flying. So, but today is mental health in the news day. My shoes are squeaking. Do you hear that? I don't know if people can hear that. But today is mental health in the news day.
That's right. Tuesday.
So we're going to talk about an article that I found, and it's very interesting because I was reading it.
Where did you find this?
I found it in Apple News, and what was interesting is that it's talking about some schools in Baltimore, but it's a publication out of Australia.
When you told me it was from Australia, I thought it's about an Australian school. They're doing it right in Australia. And I said, no, these schools are in Baltimore. And I said, why aren't we hearing about this?
Yeah, it's
interesting. So it's a Baltimore schools, but a news story in Australia.
Right.
Australia's close to Baltimore.
You know. So the title of the article is, "This is what happens when schools replace detention with meditation." Mm-hmm. Now, so what they did, and this is I'll post the link in the show notes, but what they're talking about is that there's this elementary school and a high school in Baltimore.
Where K-12?
No, it's two separate schools.
Okay.
Where they have implemented this process where students who are having a difficult time, they're either misbehaving or they're having various problems, they go to a special room where they either learn to meditate or practice meditation. Sometimes they're doing yoga. They do all kinds of things, learning about what's going on around them, what contributes to their behaviors, and those kinds of things. And they're describing it as this really progressive approach to dealing with behavior problems. We've only been talking about it for a while now, but
10 years. No, 10 years really.
We
started. This is 2016. We published our book in 2011, wasn't it 2011? 2012. Mm-hmm. But we were writing it in 2010 and 2011. So It's been just about 10 years that we've been discussing these kinds of alternative approaches.
Well, and that was the reason that this article really jumped out to me, because one of the things we say in our book is teach, don't punish.
Right.
Well, I want to read this second paragraph in here because it fits so perfectly. It says, "It makes so much sense, we're wondering why no one thought of it sooner. Instead of punishing children for not being able to control their thoughts and actions, why not teach them how to ensure they have power over their naturally wandering minds?"
We are revising. We are working on the second edition of our book that stated just that.
Yes.
Teach, don't punish.
Yeah. So it's fantastic.
We would have thought of that.
So if only we would have published it in Australia, then probably it would have gotten some more traction. But so this is what the article talks about, is this elementary school called Robert W. Coleman Elementary School. And it's working with this not-for-profit group called Holistic Life Foundation. Mm-hmm. So all these links are there. And they develop a thing that they call a mindful moment room. And so students who are having a difficult time, they go in there, and it's sort of described as this very welcoming room that's, it has lamps instead of bright lights, and it has, cushy chairs and
which we advised in 2002.
Yes.
In a classroom, right?
In a classroom that we were working with, right? Mm-hmm. They're talking about different things with the environment, including things like gardening and that kind of stuff, just to teach these students how to manage their emotions and regulate their reactions to things in their environment, and teaching them the skills that they lack. Now, another friend of ours, or hero of ours, that talks about this a lot is Ross Green. He talks about students who, or not just students, but people in general, who have difficulty conforming or meeting the expectations of the environment. And he says, so often we treat them as though they're being intentionally behaviorally defiant and problematic.
Right.
And he says, maybe they're lagging skills. Maybe they don't have the ability to do what it is that we need them to do.
And one of the great lines is, if children can, they will.
Yeah.
Okay, so when in a school situation, when you encounter children who aren't behaving, I would say 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, if they can, they will. So if they're not doing it, they lack the skill, they lack the ability to do it. It's not just that they're being nasty or disobedient or disrespectful. They simply don't have the skills to do it. The ability to self-regulate is a skill that we learn over time. Okay, so these kids haven't learned that skill.
Yeah, and so it says the results. Robert W. Coleman Elementary has seen exactly 0 suspensions last year and so far this year. Meanwhile, nearby Patterson Park High School, which also uses this mindfulness program, said suspension rates dropped and attendance increased through using this program. So, we talked about expanding and focusing more on the brain, and you may be listening to this thinking, well, they talked about meditation before. Well, this is what we want to. This is where it ties in so much more with the brain. What these kinds of techniques do is it reinforces or it strengthens your brain's ability to inhibit impulses. The internal structures of your brain that control sort of, I often talk about it as just sort of hedonistic impulses. I got to do this, I want to do this, and just pleasure-seeking types of behaviors. The part of our brain that regulates that, manages that, really doesn't have a lot of energy. It doesn't have enough energy to sustain us throughout the full day. And so what these kinds of programs do is they reinforce and they refuel that area of our brain so that we can inhibit those impulsive reactions and impulsive behaviors.
If you think about that, the ability to inhibit is in the cortex of our brain. And the cortex is 3 millimeters thick. 3 millimeters is the diameter of this. Okay, that's how thick your cortex is. So it's just a covering. It's a thin covering, but it has an exceedingly important task, which is to inhibit these strong emotions, particularly the ones where I want to, I have to, I need to, and the cortex inhibits that. But it tires, it fatigues, okay, from repeated use. And so what this sounds like they're doing at the school is they're giving children a chance to refuel the cortex or rebuild its energy quotient so that it's able to do its job of inhibiting these emotions. The emotions are going to be there. What we have to do is help these kids inhibit those emotions.
Absolutely. And so meditation and these techniques that they're using, whether it's yoga or meditation or just sort of increasing awareness, really strengthens your ability to do your brain's ability to regulate that stuff. And it's all falls within the realm of behavioral and emotional regulation.
If you think about it, when you're dealing with children and some adults, but mainly with children, it's sort of this contest between the emotional structures in the brain, in the limbic system, versus the inhibitory structures of the cortex. So there's always this sort of a race. I liken it to a boat race, like these sculls that rowing. And so you have these two powerful boats, and one of them is going to win. And if you the cortex the limbic system, the emotional structures of the brain are always going to be racing. Okay, and so it's our obligation to make sure that the cortex does its job of keeping up, so that the emotions don't overwhelm the whole system. And that's what they're doing at a school-wide level. Who actually does the work with these kids? Do they have somebody come in and work with them, or somebody on the staff?
It doesn't.
I'll have to read it.
It doesn't mention it specifically. Yeah, it didn't have a link to the actual article or journal article.
But it makes me think about the other main point here. It all starts with, we are failing these children now. To suspend a child from school is to fail. You're admitting failure because, first of all, you're sending a child to a home and you don't know what's going on in that home. Number one, most kids are safer at school than they are at home. And the second thing is that as long as the child is at home, you can't do any interventions at school. If the kid's not there, you can't teach them anything. Self-regulation or math or science or anything. So to throw a kid out of a school is the admission of failure. So this is an alternative to suspending them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're using these strategies as opposed to some of those traditional punitive reactions to problematic behaviors. And it says that the outcome for students are what they call the trifecta of happiness. Higher well-being, better social skills, and greater academic skills.
Yeah.
What more do we want for our kids?
Right. Because the kids who are being suspended, if you're suspended, you're allowed. The problem with suspension is you can give a kid a 0 for every day they're out on a suspension, which means they're not only missing school, they're also failing the work that they missed.
Yeah.
So it's like double jeopardy.
Yeah.
You fail academically, and then what do? That's why we have a school to prison pipeline, because the kids who are getting, and the other thing we should mention, well, I don't want to get into that, but the kids who are suspended are children of color. They
tend to be, because of that hyper reactivity that and that attribution. Well, we've talked before about attribution theory and
for
those
whatever
kinds of things.
they're doing something that's making teachers angry. We're not sure exactly what it is, but we know that they represent about 20% of the population, but 50% of the suspensions.
Right.
So there's some connection there. Children of color are doing something that's angering their teachers. Mm-hmm. We don't have to call it racism, but we have to figure out what it is that they're doing that's resulting in all these suspensions.
Right.
Try to fix that problem. This is a fascinating article. I'll have to are you going to send that to us?
Yeah, the link will be on the in the show notes, and they do mention that there was a meta review that was published where they looked at 15 studies that included almost 1,800 students across Australia, Canada, India, the UK, the United States, and Taiwan. So this is a big study. This is a meta-analysis of all the different studies that looked at this kind of approach.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's really there's a lot of evidence building for this approach to behavior management and dealing with situations in schools.
Yeah, we have to find an alternative to suspensions. Suspensions do nothing for anybody.
Right.
In fact, there was a study done recently that said that suspension adversely affects children who do behave. Right. And they said the reason they think that is because when you start suspending children, you set up an adversarial relationship. It's catching kids being bad and then punishing them, and that has a negative effect on all students.
Right.
So it even affects. Very often you'll hear people say, "Well, I can't let this student get away with it. I have to set an example so that other kids don't do it." Well, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
It has a negative effect on those kids who are watching.
Yeah.
Not a positive. It's not, because those kids aren't going to misbehave anyway. 80% of children are not going to misbehave. We've talked about the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it anyway. But in fact, now we know that it has a negative effect on positive students.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'll put the link up.
Great
So
article.
Check out this study. this
You had to go to Australia to retrieve this?
Overnight. I just flew there and came back. I picked up a paper. So look it over and try to find ways to incorporate this into your life, because it's not just for kids that it helps. It helps everyone.
And
everyone
we
should
see
be doing
children in our practice whose parents sort of take this more punitive approach, and it starts to backfire.
Right.
The children start to resist and they push back. There are better alternatives to punishment. There almost always is a better alternative to punishment.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, get out and exercise today.
Good way to start a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, we should all be. So I'm going to implement that here at the office. When you start getting a little irritable
you're not going to suspend me any.
I'm going to send you off for surgery again.
Lobotomy.
So
brain surgery. They got halfway there. Now we got to do the rest. Okay.
Get to work, guys. So have a great day, everyone.
Have a happy Tuesday.
And we appreciate you listening, and certainly write into us if you have any other questions or anything that you would like for us to talk about.
Stick to your goals.
Yes.
I was good last night. My kids made brownies. They had little visitors over last night. They made brownies. I was good.
Were you?
I was good. Yeah.
There you go.
I just ate my soup. That was it.
Fantastic. Good
Didn't
job.
eat any brownies.
Way to hang in there.
So I don't remember eating any brownies anyway.
In your sleep.
I may have gotten
you woke up with brownie crumbs all over you.
brown crumbs on my chin. No, I was good last night. So stick to your goals.
Absolutely.
It's only Tuesday, so let's work together to stick to our goals.
You can do it. We believe in you. So, all right. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.